things that we consider to be emergencies or crises. Now, Tia's heard me say this. The root word of emergency, work with me now, is what? Emerge or emergence. Right? And emergence is what? Growth. So every emergency, every catastrophe, every crisis, every tragedy, every trauma in your life has value. Can help you grow. I said can. Right? Whether or not it does really has to do with our own orientation to the experience. So all of it is useful. Shift happens. It's going to happen whether you like it or not, whatever you want it or not. That was the first realization. The second realization from my conversations with God that said, hey, I'm not ready for this change that you planted in my heart, was that all of my fears and concerns about not having enough. Now, I don't know how many of you are struggling with that, where you say, I can't move to the next level until I get, fill in the blank. So all of my fears and concerns about not having enough, right? So I can only change when I get a profit over here. And when I had enough money. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't about the getting enough. It was about feeling that I was enough. I'm going to say that again. It wasn't about getting enough. It was about feeling like I was enough. Right? So the truth of the matter was, I was less afraid of the money. And if I were more honest, more afraid or more uncertain about whether or not I was capable enough. Did I have enough knowledge? Did I have enough preparation? Did I have enough support? Am I good enough to undertake the calling or to undertake the desired reality that's speaking to me? And that is always the case. Whenever we're stuck by not having enough, the real issue isn't not having enough. It's feeling like we're not enough. You get the difference? So that's what led to my third and most important realization. I'm going to distill this even further, because for some of you, it's not about not having enough, not feeling enough, whatever. Right? So let's extrapolate a little bit further. That's this. Here's the third one. When we're in the midst of change, or in the hallways of our life, the work is not about getting the external conditions right. Hence, that having enough kind of stuff. It's about getting the internal conditions right. The being enough. So, hallways, stick with me, are by their nature internal. Interior. You don't have hallways outside. Because outside is a walkway, it's not a hallway. Hallways are enclosed spaces. So the very nature of a hallway is that it's an interior space. So every single in-between space in your life is about what's happening inside of you. Inside, not outside. And this is a big shift. It may be common sense, but it's a big shift. Why? Because some of the first things we do when we find ourselves in a hallway is we redouble or triple our efforts to control what's outside. So we say, I can't shift until I get more money, right? What is that? That's an effort to make the external conditions right. I can't shift until fill in the blank. But it's not about the external conditions. It's about the internal conditions. And what are the internal conditions that I was being asked to cultivate and develop? 5-letter word begins with the T, ends with the T. It's called trust. Trust. And once I could develop and cultivate the right internal conditions, trust me, the external conditions would respond. So we are moving and working at the level of cause, not effect. Hallways are about moving beyond the effects and appearances of life and getting to the causal level. Some of you have heard me use this metaphor before about the mirror. You look in the mirror, you see a feather on your nose. You try to move the feather by smacking the mirror. Doesn't work. Only way to move the feather is to bring the hand to the nose, right? To come to self. And so, whatever the circumstances are, when we're trying to manipulate the external conditions with all of our effort, we're smacking the mirror. The shift that hallways beg of us is an internal. It's an inside job. So I was being asked to trust that God, Spirit, the universe, life, whatever you call it, was supporting me. That I am enough and am supported enough to stand in the next greatest and greatest version of my life. And why is this an important thing? It's an important thing because there has been no time when that hasn't been the case. Even when things didn't feel good. Right? So I look at my daughter, and she has what she needs to go from crawling to walking to running. And if it works for infants, at what point did it stop working for us? Right? But we will look at the circumstance and say, well, we don't have enough. It's just not here. But there's always been a universal collusion to help you grow and develop. That is your breathing air. Your cells are running through processes of mitosis and meiosis and all that other great stuff that you aren't consciously aware of that's happening to support your growth. Everything is colluding to help you live right now, even if life is difficult. So why wouldn't it also be colluding to help you grow? So the work for me was trust. And the rule number one was that hallways are internal. So whenever you're thinking about your change in your life, know that the first focus is on you. What is happening inside of you? And when I say internal, what am I talking about? I'm talking about your beliefs. I'm talking about your mindsets. I'm talking about your feelings about yourself and the world, or your relationship to the world. That's what I mean when I say it's an inside job. Because our beliefs and our mindsets and our attitudes and our feelings are what drives our behaviors. Our behaviors don't spontaneously generate, but they sort of just come out of the air. They're attached to something. And the forces that drive our behaviors are our beliefs and our feelings and our attitudes and our mindsets. They are the invisible infrastructure or the invisible architecture of our lives. They are the foundation. You change the belief, the attitude, the mindset, you change the entire structure. So, we shift. We shift from expending so much energy when we're in a hallway to controlling what's happening outside of us to a greater awareness of what's happening inside of us. And the first thing we do is take an honest look at the status quo. An honest look at the status quo. Right? So you all have these sheets in front of you in the box. Just the status quo. Okay. You have no hand. Right? Give you the answer, give you the answer. So I want you to call into your awareness right now the status quo that no longer fits. And write a couple of words description about it. A couple of words. This is just a prompt for you. Nobody else is going to see it. You'll know what you mean. So nobody has to decipher your handwriting. But what's the existing reality that no longer fits? The reason I asked you to call this into your conscious mind is that they are acting on us, right? This status quo can often show up as just, there's a sense of dissatisfaction. It's sort of moving, there's an undercurrent. It's an undercurrent. Sometimes it's real obvious and it's real loud. But other times it's more subtle than that. And we just want to call it out. Bring it up. Because if we bring it up, we can do something. The second thing I want you to think about, just a few words, is what ties you to this status quo? What is binding you to it? You may not have all the answers when you do this at home, right? You may end up getting a whole lot more, right? But what was binding me to my profession, which is no longer as fulfilling as it was my belief that it was the source of my stability. And I held on to that belief even after my husband got a job and blah, 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 and yada, yada, right? This is the source of my stability. It's also a big source of my identity. Right? So I am known as the senior consultant for blah, blah, blah. It's a big piece of how I see myself and how other people see me. So there's some status attachments. I've invested a lot in it. I have degrees and blah, blah, blah. Right? These are the kinds of things that are binding me to the known world. So think about, what are some of the things that are binding you to your known world that no longer fits? It's not bad, it just doesn't fit anymore. Come up with at least 3 things, because I know you can do it.